unmute Steve Mason's. Ella will try it.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yay!
Yoo-hoo!
Hang up, Holly. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, can you see me?
I cannot see you. No, ma'am. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I don't know how to do that. I don't much care if you can hear me. I mean, if you can see me, I'm fine. I'm fine to just do it by voice.
That'll be fine.
What do you do? I've lost my prayer. Okay, here it is. I mean, I could ad-lib it, but I don't really want to. Okay, all right, here we go. The host has asked you to start your video.
Yes, so
Yes,
we can
do
see
that.
you.
They will
Okay.
see your pretty face.
All right, let me see. He doesn't use a mouse, so I got to figure out how to do this. All right. Okay.
There you
all
go.
right.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! I even put makeup on for you guys, so you know. Okay.
We appreciate it, Jane.
Even if it does say Steve, I guess people will know that's not Steve.
Yeah.
I hope we can tell the difference. All right, I got 10 o'clock, y'all.
All right, we'll get it going. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to the council and Ella and Karen and all our friends in internet land. We're glad you could join us this morning. We're going to start off this morning with a welcome to Jan Mason, even though it says Stephen Mason, who graciously agreed to offer our invocation. Take it away, Miss Mason.
Thank you. Please bow your heads as I pray. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you for all who are gathered here in their homes today to take part in this meeting under these extraordinary circumstances that can be overwhelming. You tell us not to be afraid. Show us how to trust in you. Thank you for loving us from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for our city officials, and for this assembled council. I ask that you graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid conflicting interests and issues, a sense of the welfare and true needs of Sky Valley, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and personal peace in their lives and joy in the task before them. As the council goes through today's agenda, please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those of us who live and have homes in our beautiful Sky Valley. It is in your most holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
That was wonderful, Jan. Thank you so much. We may have to have that again. That same prayer is just so wonderful. Thank you.
Keep it.
Yes, ma'am. All right, as part of our agenda for today, we next come to an approval of the minutes, which was included in our council information packet, and I'm sure they've all read it. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes from March 17th council meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
A second from Bruce. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, I'll call for a vote for approval. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I would like a motion to adjust our agenda for approval under new business, item 6, to include deleting Howard Beckard, not deleting him, but his name, adding Harry Collins and Jim Curtis as members of our marketing committee. Do I hear a motion to approve our adopted agenda as so read.
I make a motion.
Thank you, Bruce. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Moody. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to the mayoral remarks, and I will try to make them quick. I have a lot I need to say. First of all, thank you to our police department and Officer Casey. I received a letter from a citizen, Helen Kleiber, describing how thankful she was for Officer Casey noticing something out of the ordinary at her house in the middle of the night. Thank goodness everything was fine, but she was thrilled at his diligence for taking time to check to see if she was okay. And she said she was so thankful knowing our police are out there in the dark while we sleep. So thank you to our police department and Officer Casey. I also received a phone call from Jim and Dottie Rhodes the other day, who were thrilled with the response of our fire department and our police department when their house was struck by lightning the other evening when we had that bad storm. They both are fine. Their house is fine, but she said, Dottie called and said that everyone came so quickly, they were so professional, and made sure that they were okay, and she wanted to offer thanks to both of those groups of our wonderful city workers. Also, thanks to James and Jerry and the Public Works crew who responded to a call about a tree about to fall down on Ridgepole. They came quickly, took care of it all. It was wonderful, and thank you all for that. Council, do you have anything you need to say before we move on?
No, ma'am.
Nope.
I'm fine,
Okay.
Holly.
You, no problem. All right, now to new business. Item 6 is to consider approving an additional marketing member appointments, which we just talked about. Bob O'Keefe, who's the chairman of the committee, wants his committee to be composed of 2 members from each of the entities involved. And that's the city, the Sky Valley Country Club,
Yep.
Property Owners Association, and timeshares. Do I hear a motion to approve these members?
Make that motion.
Okay,
And I'll second.
thank you, Bruce. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving these members to the marketing committee signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. All right, now we are coming to Ella. We're going to talk about considering approving the road paving in 2020, awarding a bid to Daniel Wilson.
Yeah.
Ella, you need to explain anything about the bids?
But this is what, it's actually road striping. This is what we had talked about previously, and we're getting information on this. This just goes back to where member Daniel Wilson came to the council meeting and gave us information as far as what he does when he does the road striping. I got a comparative bid on this, and the other gentleman was still 40 cents. This one, if we go over the 10,000 linear foot, is 28 cents. So my recommendation is that we approve Mr. Daniel's bid of $15,375.36. This is going to do road striping on LaBelle Circle, Ridgepole Drive, and Sky Valley Way.
Do I hear a motion for this approval?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the proposed line striping.
I second.
Thank you, Ed. A second. All right, thank you, Jim. Any discussion? I just have one question. If we approve this, Ella, when do we think that this process will begin?
As soon as he can get started, he'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Is the lockdown going to
All
prohibit
in
them?
favor?
Not to my knowledge. No, most contractors are still working. I'm sorry, Holly, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
And
no problem, no problem.
Ella, what's the timing on that? Have they given?
As far as how long, well, it depends on the weather.
Yeah.
You know, they could come out and get started and it start flooding and they can't do anything. So you just can't tell. I would say probably within 2 to 3 weeks max.
Okay, thank you.
Would you, Ella, would you describe the process that he's going to go through to do this?
Sure. What he's going to be doing, he's going to be going on these 3 particular roads that we're having striped. He will be going through and cleaning them and scrubbing and removing any paint that possibly may be lingering, any mold, mildew on there as well. But he also, once he puts the striping in, as you know, this has like glass beads that in the paint itself that makes it reflective. And he will be doing just the sides of the road.
I also was impressed that it said that that this striping would last, was it 10 to 12 years if it's on a road that has been previously
That is
paved?
correct. That's what he had informed us when he came in and met with us. He said that since it is not a newly paved road, it should last that long. But as with any paint, you never know.
True, Ella. Any other discussion or questions? All right, I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor of this proposal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, I look forward to that beginning. All right, now we are on old business, and that is item number 8, consider an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Sky Valley, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein. This is our codification process. Ella, would you describe a little bit about what that means?
Yes, what it is, what we've done, if any of you all are familiar with our current website, and this is something that sort of has coincided and we've been working on for over a year now. All of our ordinances have just been scattered about, and there has been no official book that had everything codified in it. We were able to get municipal code to come in. We sent them all of our ordinances that pertain to this, old all the way up to the most recent. They went through and pulled out what would not have been constitutional and out of date and codified this for us. So what will happen now is once our new website gets up and running, once this gets approved, we will have a link that will take us to municipal code that you can go in particular, like if you're hunting anything on animals, you can go in and type animals or any particular word that you're looking at, and it will refer you to the sections that would be in. It's going to be, people are going to be really impressed. I've used it over the years, and you rarely pick up a book once you get this online. You just automatically go to it, and you can go in and say, like, if you're looking at something, you can print out a particular section if you're interested in that as well.
I've looked over the proposed document. It looks really well done. It is, I think, over 350 pages long. I think it's a great thing. Have we already done, we have not done the motion. Can I have a motion to accept the ordinance codification?
I move that we accept the ordinance.
Thank you, Jim. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Jim, thank you so much for pouring through this thing in detail. And, you know, the questions that you had, you know, look absolutely on the mark. So means we've got just a little work to do, maybe to look at these things and decide whether some minor modifications are made to what we're accepting today. But overall, I would agree. This is the good job was done, and make things quite a bit simpler.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Bill.
comments?
Only to agree with the comments by by Bill. I think our Councilman Curtis did a yeoman's job of pouring through 350 pages of information, and he provided all the council members with some summaries of things that we may or we should look at over the next 2 or 3 months to whether we need to do some tinkering, if you will, of those ordinances. So thank you, Jim.
I'd like to have a copy
Thank
of
you,
that too. I did not receive that information.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get that to you, Ella.
I
And
think
we
if,
can, go ahead,
if
Rudy.
Jim needs a part-time job, I think he might be good. He was very, very thorough.
Maybe we need to start a new committee, call it the Tinkering Committee, Jim.
No more committees.
Well,
No more.
we might well
Ella.
discuss whether, some of these items call for a hearing. I have some theories about how it could work, but a couple of the things may be a little controversial, excuse me, and deserve a little discussion and possibly even a little public comment.
We certainly can include it in our workshops.
Yep, I would suggest we include it in the workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I will
Thank you,
put
Jim.
together some suggestions for that. What you have now are just my raw notes, and we'll see what we all think about it.
Of course, in our Sky Valley Charter, it does tell us how to deal with ordinances, so we can all review that. And of
Right.
course, our esteemed attorney will be glad to lead us in that effort.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? All right, I guess we're ready to call the question. All of those approving of this item on our agenda signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you, this is great. And Ella, thank you for bringing that to the forefront for the city. I think it's going to be great. All right, now we're on to other business, which is the public forum and general comments. All of you all know, I hope, that you can type in any comments or questions, and we will certainly try to address as many as we can. First of all, I'd like to include some comments that were sent to me either by email, text, or phone. So I want to begin this with those questions, and I've asked our city attorney to address these because most of them are in reference to the governor's executive order. So Doug, here's some of the questions. If you can kind of give us a brief answer, we'll go from there.
Okay.
Number one, do we still have to shelter in place? And to the people who come back to Sky Valley, do they still have to do a 2-week quarantine period?
The answer is yes. The governor has sent out several executive orders. The one most relevant to this was done on, let's see, April 23rd. And so, yes, we are all required to shelter in place. If you look at the executive order from April 23rd in section 3, it basically says everybody has to stay at home unless they're doing essential services or if they're going out to get essential services such as food and things of that nature. So, yeah, we do have to continue to stay home. As far as the quarantine, yes, that's part of his executive order. Anybody coming in still has to come in for 2 weeks and do a quarantine period.
What's the expiration date on that?
He is May 13th is the expiration date on that. We'll see, if he extends it out or shortens it or anything, but as of right now, May 13th.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question. Can we still prohibit short-term rentals in Sky Valley?
Well, that was some late breaking news. The governor had an executive order that was that banned the short-term rentals, but he announced last night that he was going to let that expire. He has not actually posted another executive order saying that it was going to expire, but I did read in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that his office said that he was going to let that portion of the executive order expire this Friday. So if that does happen, as of right now, he hasn't actually issued the executive order, but if he does, like his office said he would, the state would no longer have a prohibition on short-term rentals. I think by looking at his order and also by some materials that the Georgia Municipal Association sent to city attorneys, I think that we would then have authority as a local government to put back into place the prohibition on the short-term rentals. So what I want to do is when the governor gives out that executive order, so I can actually read the language of it, unless he flat out prohibits local governments from regulating it, if that language is not in there, then I would recommend to Sky Valley, if y'all want to do that, to then put into place the short-term rental prohibition that we already had, but we would do another one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Questions or comments from anybody about that issue?
So Doug, just so I'm clear, so if someone calls right now and until we get the executive order that has been issued, we currently we're not allowing short-term rentals at this time. And if he is scheduled to let it expire on Friday, so you're saying that we as the city can go back in unless he determines that it's not left up to local municipalities or counties to enact this?
Yes, that's correct. I would need to see the order, but his office indicated that he would let it expire on Friday. If his order says we're letting it expire and I'm prohibiting local governments from regulating it, then we can't.
Right.
But if it doesn't have that language, then yes, I would say that we could come in and then regulate it locally at Sky Valley.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so far to date, all of his orders have had that clause in it, correct?
I was thinking they did too, Bill. That's why I was wanting to clarify that.
And so
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, more than likely, it probably would prohibit us from doing it, but until I see the order, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So what would be the process for us to revamp our original emergency ordinance, Doug, if we can?
Say that again.
What would be the process if we are allowed to put that into effect again by the governor? What is the process for us to re-up our original emergency ordinance that expired in April the whatever it was, the 12th or 13th?
Okay. I think we would just call another meeting and
Okay.
we could either adopt what we already had or take the things that we would like from the old emergency ordinance and put into a new one.
Okay. Any other comments on that? All right. Next question. What about playing pickleball, basketball, and tennis?
Okay. Well, the governor's executive order doesn't explicitly say anything about outdoor activities, group sports and things like that. But if you read the order, it looks like on pages 14 and 15, he says that gyms can be reopened so long as they follow the rules that he puts in there. But on page 15, he says that basketball courts and other group sports areas have to remain closed. Now, that's in relation to gyms and other indoor facilities, but I was looking at some, on his website with frequently asked questions and things like that. It's not part of the order, but just kind of supplementary material. They say that any type of group sports activities are continued to be banned during this time. So that would be even outdoor stuff in my mind. So I would say that pickleball, basketball, and tennis are banned under the governor's executive order, even though they are outside, just because you can't, I would imagine you can't safely socially distance yourself 6 feet or more on a basketball court or pickleball or whatever. So I'm thinking that it's continued to be banned.
Okay. Any
Doug, is there
questions
any-
or go ahead.
Is there any wiggle room in that, Doug? I mean, basketball is sort of a contact sport. You're supposed to get close.
Yeah.
Pickleball is separated by 2 3-foot alleys next to the net. So that enforces distancing on half the folks. If your partner is within 6 feet of you, he's risking getting like hit in the head by your racket.
Right.
So I think that's sort of a closer call.
I think so too. That's what I was saying. There's nothing in his order that explicitly says group sports outside are prohibited. But just reading between the lines, it says that gyms can be reopened except for their facilities relating to basketball courts and other group sports areas. And so you think, well, maybe that's talking about gyms and indoors and outdoors could be done. But on the website, it's not in the order, but it's in a frequently asked questions section. It says that even outdoor group sports areas would be considered too close to do. So, going by the order, I would say that they are banned. I don't know if there's enough wiggle room there to allow that as of right now.
Because, if there's a ball involved and people are handling it or breathing on it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the point of it.
Yeah.
I'd
Any
like
other
to
comments?
Yeah, I'd like to comment as well, because we've heard from several people that would like to play, and the ones I've heard from are from their same household. So whether they're playing pickleball or eating dinner with each other, they have the same exposure. I've also heard comments that other areas have allowed pickleball. I'm talking about maybe out of state, but the folks that were playing the pickleball would make sure that they practice social distancing. They actually had buckets and the balls would between striking the balls would go in a Clorox solution, so they were sterilized, sanitized before they were used. So I guess my question to you, Doug, is we're basing the shutdown of pickleball based on a group sport. What's the definition of a group sport? Basketball, obviously, as Jim pointed out, is a contact sport, so that would make sense. But I'm not sure that, or maybe my question to you is instead of figuring out how not to do it, let's give us some help here on how we could do it, knowing that the persons that would be involved in playing would be responsible citizens. I don't think any of us want to expose ourselves unnecessarily.
Right.
So the folks that are interested in playing, it would be up to them personally to make sure that they exercise prudence in the way that they play. So what do you think?
And Doug, if we could provide written protocol from other areas that have successfully managed pickleball in specific, is that something that we could pursue?
I think if the people playing could stay 6 feet apart at all times, then you could argue that it was like any other outdoor activity like jogging or walking or anything like that is not prohibited.
Or golf.
Right, exactly. So I think if you can make it so that everybody's 6 feet apart at all times, then I think you would have an argument that it is not a group sport activity that falls under the governor's executive order. It's more of an activity like walking or golf or something like that. So I mean, basketball, I think that's a hard argument to make. The other sports, tennis and things like that, you could probably make that argument.
I know as part of the newest executive order, there's an extensive list of regulations that go with all the different things that the governor is allowing, which includes signage. What can we do to develop our regulations so that they stay in line with the governor's recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, most of the signage and stuff is regulating businesses and restaurants and things like that about the things that they have to do to reopen.
Well, also there was some for gyms too.
Yeah, and for gyms as well. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, my understanding is that at least with the activities that we're talking about here, they're all outdoors. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could kind of take some of those regulations that they're proposing for indoor gyms, and you can apply them to outdoor if you think that they apply. They're in the executive order. I don't have that in front of me right now, but
Yeah.
there are some things.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, could you write us up a proposal on what regulations need to be on a sign and what we need to put out as our way of having these activities available?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. And any of y'all, if you have suggestions that you've heard from the citizens about pickleball and tennis, could you send those to Doug, and we can maybe get together and in a call meeting after, well, this is good till the 13th, right? This executive order?
That's correct.
Okay. So would you all send him your suggestions also, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All
And
right.
Holly,
Yes.
your request to Doug covers pickleball and tennis and anything else?
Yes.
Or just
Well,
those two
what-
sports?
Okay, maybe.
I think basketball, like you said, is pretty much out. Now,
Yeah.
there was also
Yeah.
some questions about the use of the timeshare exercise room and the swimming pool.
Now,
Doug, do
she
you want
has,
to-
my
go ahead.
understanding is that she has that closed until the end of next month is the last thing I had heard from Shelley on that.
Okay,
Okay.
all
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah.
that's theirs, that's not ours, so we can't regulate if they want to keep it closed that long.
Oh, no. Well, I wouldn't do that anyway.
And the governor's, Mayor, the governor's executive order doesn't allow swimming pools at all. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a flat out ban on that. As far as the exercise room, it does regulate gyms and things of that nature. And there's a bunch of steps that they have to do to reopen.
Okay.
And I might add to that, Doug, is if you read those steps for gyms to open, they're quite extensive, and,
They
and
are.
we probably don't have the
Yes.
resources to do that with the little exercise room that we have at this time. So.
Right. Great. All right. Next, I think the last question is just in the new executive order, if you read, I think it's about 27 pages, but it talks a lot about visitors and not allowing people to visit. And it even has a penalty of you're charged with a misdemeanor if you visit if you're just going to visit and you're not providing essential services. So the last question I had was, does this order say I can't visit my friends?
I think of that pretty
Doug,
much
do
is
you
what.
want to respond to that?
Yes, I do think
Yeah.
that the order does prohibit us from going and hanging out at our friend's house during this time. You can pretty much only leave the house to
Right.
to provide an essential service, or to go and get an essential service, or to leave the house to do some exercise and things of that nature. So, yeah, I mean, it does prohibit you from going and hanging out at your friend's house.
Even if you maintain social distancing?
Yeah.
Yeah, indoors. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing prohibiting y'all from going outside and walking and keeping 6 feet apart, but you can't really go to each other's houses and hang out in their house. Yeah.
How about outside the house, Doug?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you stay 6 feet apart and it's just you're out walking and things of that nature, yeah, you can do that. You just can't go and hang out inside each other's houses.
Well, Doug, I guess just to expand a little bit more on the quarantine requirement of 14 days in sheltering in place. It would seem like after 14 days, you'd no longer have to shelter in place. I mean, the two things seem to conflict a little bit, don't they?
They do, but that's what his order requires.
Any other comments about those questions?
Just to say that, surviving this thing is something that we all can do if we keep away from other folks. The fact is, we don't know if we have it. We're pretty sure we don't have it because we haven't been exposed and we've been inside. But it's a real responsibility. If you go in someone's home and then leave, if you did contaminate it, that seems like a pretty serious thing. And if we decide not to go into anyone else's home, as well as not inviting anyone into our own home but our family, then I would say that our chances of avoiding the virus are dramatically improved. So it seems like an onerous infringement on the kind of lifestyles that we've typically lived in Sky Valley. But I think there's a sound rationale for that. Everybody deserves to have a safe haven that stays a safe place that they can retreat to avoid catching the virus. So I think this is innovative. The one innovative thing perhaps that our governor has done.
Thank you, Jim. All right, Ella, are there any other written comments or questions we need to address?
Yes, Alan Portowski has something down here for everyone. He said the city manager has been involved in the codification process for a year. Why hasn't the council kept Ella up to speed on the review that was done by Jim Curtis and provided to all council members?
Well, I think it was
Perhaps-
just pretty much an informal thing that he took upon himself just to start reading. So we're just at the beginning of this process of looking at the ordinances. And also we had to wait to approve the ordinances before we even started working on them.
Yeah, I apologize, Ella, for not, I don't have a council city email list. I plug these names in and take a quick look and then send it out. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
Hold on, Bill says I got him muted again. Hold on. Muted. No?
Yeah, it says he's
I'm
there.
good
there he
now.
is.
There you go.
All right.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know why that does that. That's weird.
All right, any other comments or questions, Ella?
I don't have any.
There's there's another chat.
Robert Smalley has asked, is it okay for family to play pickleball together? As of right now, no, because the court has to remain closed per the governor's orders.
Until we develop some regulations and approve them, and then I think we'll be able to open it. Thank you for that question, Mr. Smalley. Any others?
Well, Holly, I'd like to just add to that, though, is I think we're making an assumption there that we've asked Doug maybe to get better clarification.
Right.
But is pickleball considered a group sport or not? I think just deciding that it isn't altogether fair to, I think, people that
Right.
believe that they can go out there and practice social distancing and be safe. So.
Well, it's hard to play pickleball by yourself, so I would assume it is a group activity. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, before I ask for a motion for adjournment, I'd like to remind everybody that we have some committee meetings coming up. The Mayoral Advisory Committee meeting is this Friday at 10 p.m. and an agenda.
10 a.m. 10 a.m. please.
Oh yeah, that too. What are you saying, Bill, that people won't stay up for it?
I won't.
Me either.
Okay. Thank you, Ella and Karen, for sending out the meeting agenda, and the link for the Zoom meeting is attached to it. Also, we have a marketing meeting, I believe, on May the 14th. Was that 1:30 or 2 o'clock? Do we know?
No, I don't
Okay.
think it was ever determined. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And
well-
also, well, just to give you all an update, I'm working on some information that I'm going to pass along to you all in reference to these council committees that have been formed. We need to set up some guidelines so we're all on the same page and we can get things done the way they need to be done, because until we get a actual agenda, we can't send these meeting notices out. So once we get that way we can do it. But I'd like to have stuff in a timely manner and relate, and also confirm the dates with our office. So I'll be sending that out to all council members and to the chairpersons of these committees as well.
Okay.
Great,
How-
thanks.
How,
Okay, you're
How-
welcome.
how far in advance would you like the agenda sent to you, Ella?
It needs to be at least about 10 days. You know, sometimes I know 10 days is a little hard, but these notices, you know, we need to get everything out as timely as possible, which is 7 days prior to. So we need to make sure we have the information in hand. So if there's questions that we have before putting the agenda together, and I know 10 days may not always work out, that's no problem. We'll work around whatever we have to do, but we need to take in consideration that Kara and I have other things that we're working on as well, and not just committees. So please take that into consideration when y'all start
Sure.
stacking all these up. It is rather time consuming.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey, guys, we got another follow-up question from Mr. Smalley.
Okay.
Yes. It's saying family members do not practice separation inside, so why can't members of the same family play? Sorry, do not practice separation.
They don't practice inside. He's saying, why couldn't we do
Yeah.
it?
Look, I will find some way to get around that regulation, because I agree. It's outside. If they're part of a family, you know, if they can stay 6 feet apart, I think I can find some regulations that we can add to make it safe that would fall within the governor's executive order and allow it.
Thank you, Doug.
Doug, you might want to just follow up with Hiawassee, because I checked with them. And I'm not sure if all of you know this, but as of last Thursday or Friday, we actually had the pickleball courts open, but they have since been locked back up. But I know Hiawassee has opened theirs, and some of the others have already opened, because I've checked with some of the other cities around, and they did open up the pickleball courts.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll make it work.
Okay. Do we have to have regulations posted before we open it up, do you think, Doug?
Yeah, I would. I'll get you something by this afternoon, and we'll.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Hope that answers your question, Mr. Smalley. Okay. All right. So before I ask for a motion of adjournment, I'd like to say the council and I want to say to all our neighbors and friends in Sky Valley to please take care of yourself and stay safe. And now, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Jim. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Bruce. All in favor? Say aye.
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 And I say goodbye to everybody that attended our meeting. Thank you so much, council, and to everyone else, and y'all have a great day.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Bye.